What's that, Skip? Shauno's talking about Supercoach again. Let's go. G'day everybody, it's Shauno again, and I'm back with some more Supercoach content. Today we're going to be doing our round 4 trades and captains video, and there's quite a bit to go through this week, so I guess we'll get into it. But before we do, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Do that for me now. Like the video if you like the video, and leave me a comment down below and tell me who your trades are going to be this week. One more thing before we go on, don't forget, join the Discord. I'll leave a link down below in the comments section. And yeah, if you would like me to put your team on screen and have a chat about it when we do the live videos on Thursday, just pop your team in the Post My Team Here section and we will do that. All right, everyone, let's get on with it. There's a bit to go through this week. More carnage, but not in an injury way, as you see from the old thumbnail here. What to do with the big X. Okay, so hopefully you guys checked out my round review video. It was pretty nasty, as you see from the details down here, with a score of 1660. So I'm hoping my trades are going to help me out this week. I did the trades of getting Sherry and Houston in last week, which was 2 big failures. So that didn't work out well for me at all and got one of my lowest scores ever in Supercoach. So I'm going to show you what I'm thinking about doing, and then I'm going to show you about, what I think are the best options for you guys and girls out there in the community for trades this week. But before we do, I have a little something for you, Mr. Sherry.
You are so stupid. Am I? Idiot!
Yes, he is an idiot. Goes and wipes blood on the face of an opponent, and the AFL are never going to stand for that. And he got 3 weeks. So that is a big blow to our team, especially to the people that got him in last week, like I did. He will be out for 3 weeks, and we have another suspension of our friend down here in the forward line, Devon Robertson, who's been doing so well from the Eagles. For a sling tackle on Butters is also going to be suspended for 1 week. At the time of this video, the team injury lists are not out, so hopefully that is the worst of it. But there are also rumours that Todd Marshall will not be getting up, and Milan Murdoch also will not be getting up for this week. So with those 2 guys, with the 2 rookies, Murdoch and Marshall, we definitely keep them. You don't want to be trading them. They've got big scores in the system. They're going to make you a lot of money when they come back. And they're viable on-field rookies too for when they come back. So we don't want to be selling them. You just have to hold, and they're going to make you money eventually. Now, Big X, the Sherry, the idiot, as we saw from the clip before, is out for 3 weeks. Now, I think there could be a case for you to hold if your team's going awesomely. You're in the top 100. You've got no problems. Your team's great. You're smashing out big scores every week. In that case, I think there's a potential where you could hold. He does miss some of those juicy matchups that you got him in for. But I think most of us, for 3 weeks, are going to think about trading. Now, if it was 2 weeks, I probably would have held myself. But for 3 weeks, and the fact that I'm behind the pack in my overall score, I don't know if I can have 680k just sitting there on the bench. We'll blow a trade and hopefully climb the ranks a little bit over the next few weeks. And, well, that's my plan anyway. So we'll go through trading in all lines, but this is what I plan to do this week. So also with all the dramas and getting Sherry in, so he's going to cost me in more ways than one. I missed a couple of the good rookies. I don't have Watkins and I don't have Cook. But I think for me, I'm just going to have to miss them. So we're going to trade out Sherry. And the big other glaring problem in my team is Blackiston. He's just stinking it up there in the back line. And one of the reasons I got such a low score last week is because my back line was very much undermanned after Rosie getting injured, and me, instead of getting in some replacement good backline guys, we got in Sherry, which really didn't work out for us. So instead of Sherry, for me personally, I think I'm just going to do a straight swap. I think we're just going to go straight to Max Gawn. He seems to be performing the best out of the other rucks. So for me, one to the other, it's going to cost me, $1,000. It's going to cost me 1,000 Supercoach dollars. So that's fine, no problems. Now for the back line, I think is a little bit more tricky. I'm a little bit undecided. Now the guy who I was gonna get last week, but I didn't because of his slight injury scare, was Josh Worrell. And he came out and he hurt his ankle a little bit in the first quarter and spent most of the quarter on the bench, or a lot of the quarter on the bench. But he did come back on and play, and he ended up getting a 97. So I'm thinking about getting him this week. He did play. He played okay. Yes, he had that another knock, but he continued to play on. He's gone up a little bit, but not too much. I think he's still value at 508. He has a pretty good, his scores have been 116, 123, and he got a 97 last week with that time on the boundary line. So I think that's what I'm going to do, and we're not going to boost this week. Now, I could boost and get rid of other useless people, like I'm looking at you, Parish, but I'm feeling that the Cherry situation saved Parish. I've already used one boost. I think I can get away without using a boost this week, and I think I want to use a boost next week. So we always talk about having a plan. So my plan for next week will be there's a few good rookies on the bubble, so maybe we should talk about that now. So I'm going to potentially get a couple of rookies and get one upgrade, but potentially either in the back line or the forward line. So that's my plan. Now, a lot of us out there are going to be in different situations and have different plans. This is how my team will line up this week. We will have Lombard on the field. Hopefully, he can get some decent scores. And then I'll have Robertson, who's suspended, and Flanders out. So in total, I'll have 20. I think it's 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 included flex. Yes, Sean can count up to 20. I didn't even have to use my fingers. Okay, we do have McAndrew sitting here on the bench, which is a bit of a issue. We don't really want a rookie who can score very well sitting on the bench, but I do have a plan for that. Like I said, next week we've got 2 rookies that I'm looking at. So if we go and have a look here, we'll do the rookies first. I was going to do the rucks first, but we'll do the rookies first. So I don't think there's a lot of rookies on the bubble this week that I'm really interested in. Now, the one, if you don't have Josh Lindsay, I think he is definitely, we'll take away this, definitely should be looked at. I don't know why he's not here. But yes, there he is. Josh Lindsay, he's on the bubble this week. If you traded him out, you're just going to have to bite the bullet and trade him back in. He looks good. Hopefully he won't get dropped again. So he's, if you need a defender, rookie position, I would say he's my number 1 pick. I think Jack Watkins, we're looking at Jack Watkins here, still affordable at 156. If I was going to boost and get rid of Parrish, I would get him. But myself, I've already got too many midfielders. And I think even there's a case for jumping from like a Carroll to a Watkins, even though I don't love it. But if you needed an extra player on field in the midfield, if you were a bit shorter players, I could totally understand why you're doing it. So other people going to go up this week. Milan Murdoch still, I believe, is not going to play. Jagger Smith, we should all have him already. Logan McDonald, I don't think I would be going there. Jack Lukosius is a interesting one. He's came out, smashed a couple of hundreds. He does play, I believe, like a high half forward role. And if you were going to get this pick just to ride the money, I think he only has to score 65s, I believe, to make you 100k. So he's got 110 and 95. So if he gets a 67, a 64, and a 79, he'll go up just under 100k. So I think you can't really expect him to keep on getting 100s and 90s. But if you need a forward and you wanted to jump on him as a bit of a cash grab, I could kind of understand that. And Ned Reeves, I think, is a little bit more risky. He's only getting 50% time on ground, but he is scoring very well. If you're going to go Sherry down to Ned Reeves, I think that's a little bit risky, but he's got 104 and 85. So if he comes out and gets to 64 this week, you'll get 50k. So if your plan was to keep him for a couple of weeks, expect 60s and make 50, 60k and then jump back up, I can understand it, but I'm not a big fan of it myself. I think Willem Dersma, pity we didn't get him at 200k. At 270, I think we've missed the boat, but at the same time, if you were to get rid of like a Parish to him, you'd be making a little bit of money. He could potentially score higher, and he's going to play every single week. He could also potentially score lower too. He's had a couple of really good weeks. He doesn't take many possessions to score well. He's like a high impact player. So I think it's a reasonable pick, but I think he might just be a little bit too expensive for us, my friends. And then after that, there's not much out there. Chase Jones, I have to admit, job security, I'm not too sure about. And he had a good first week and not such a great second week. So with that, I think he only got a 30. He got a 38, 86 and then a 38. So with that 38 in his system, he'd have to have a couple of really good scores to score well or to go up cash pretty quickly. So yeah, I'm not too sure if he would be a pick for me. And ZZ, if he comes back for the injuries again, I actually traded him out last week, which made me a little bit angry. He could come back into the team this week, but who knows how long he's going to be there for when the back line gets their players back for Brisbane. I assume he probably goes out straight away again, so I probably wouldn't go there either. I think at best you've got a couple of weeks of cash generation before you're going to have to get rid of him. And we've got what could be a really good Ruck rookie coming up next week. So talking about next week, and you can have a kind of look at what my plans are. So we go over here to the projections for the week after. Will Brodie, I definitely want to look at him for one more week. I don't think he's solid in that team. Seems to be Watkins seems to have higher job security than he does. Oscar Steen, ruck forward, got an 80 in the first week out there. Seemed to get the number one ruck role over Darcy Cameron in his first game, which was quite a surprise. But the kid can jump, and so he got a nice score of around an 80. So if he could do this, they show that they want to use him again this week, so he got an 83. So if he could get a 60 or a 70 plus, I think he's a very viable option, and he suits my team structure, as I also have Duff Tyler, and I want to work some way where I can get McAndrew into R3 and potentially either this guy or Duff Tyler in the forward line or on the forward bench. And then also next week, I will probably, I'm not too sure about going down, but going up, I'll be taking Parish up to probably a quality defender, I would say, using a bit of DPP action. So for me, that's why I'm thinking he's good. Oh, and the other one on looking, which didn't score as well, but could be okay, is the Carlton boy, Burn. Yes, will he burn us? I'm not too sure. Braden Cook at 220. I could understand if you still wanted to go there. I missed it at 150. I think at 150 was good value. At 220, I think he might be getting a little bit more expensive. He could definitely drop you a low score, but he's been doing quite well and he's got DPP. So if you needed a forward, I could understand if you're going there. Here is the Taylor Burn kid for next week. So, I mean, he didn't set the world on fire. He got a 52. But he looks okay and he can kick a goal. And if he was looked like he was going to stay permanently in that Carlton team, which you would think they probably would, then he could be a pickup next week too. So with like I was saying, I was thinking about a boost. It could be him and Oscar Steen down from two players and then a Parish up. They could be replacing someone potentially like a Carroll or with Steen, it could even be someone like a Buderick could be down if Buderick shows that his scoring has dried up like we seems to have. So that's, I think, some decisions for rookies for this week and a bit of a look for next week. Now let's go back to what are we going to do with the big X, the big idiot. So the big idiot, let's go straight into rucks. If you're going to go the old straight ruck for ruck like I have, my ratings or my what I would do, who I think is the best, I think Max Gorn is showing he's the number one guy. He's got a slightly hard matchup this week, but I think besides that, he looks like he's going to be right up there, and I regret not starting him at the beginning of the season. All preseason, I went on about how he burnt me a couple of years ago, and I was going to start him, and then I got scared because of the strike rules and didn't start him. And look at it, he's just absolutely smashed it every week. So he's my number one. He's a clear number one. He's expensive, but if you want a like for like, you can just go straight from Cherry to Gorn. Then my number two is Tim English. If you don't have Tim English, I think he seems to be having a very good season. The rules seem to suit him a lot, and I think he's going to be a very good pick. Then my number three is probably Grundy. A little bit cheaper than Sherry, not quite as cheap as English. Can put out some good scores. I believe he has West Coast this week, which is the absolute easiest team in rucks to score against. Even though he only got 100 points against us last year, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes very big this year. So he is also definitely an option if you like him. And the number four is probably Luke Jackson. Now, Luke Jackson, the only reason he's number four is just because having Darcy in the team just takes away the regularity of him being able to go really big. If Darcy wasn't in the team, he'd be, scoring huge scores every week, just like we saw him did last year when Darcy didn't play. But having that Darcy in the team just drags his score a little bit back down. So he's had a pretty good start to the season. I think he's going to be very consistent, but I just think the other guys have more options to go big as being single rucks. There's no one else I would really consider for like to like. Like we talked about, if you were going to try and go down to a Ned Reeves or something like that, I understand, but I probably wouldn't be a move for me. I'd probably, if you already got McAndrew at R2, or at R3 or in your flex, I'd prefer if you like sold Sherry, fixed up your team in other spots, left McAndrew at R2. So that's my opinion on the rucks. Now, if you're in the shopping, if you're shopping for a mid, like we said, you decide to take the Sherry money and spend it on a mid, or you just want a mid, obviously, probably my number one target would be the Bont. He's one that I've had for a few weeks, and I thought everybody else wouldn't be able to get, but now you've got Sherry money, maybe you can get the Bont. Yes, he's very expensive, but he's the best player in the league for a reason. Also, I think Max Holmes would be a very good target as well for the midfield. Again, rules seem to suit him a lot. I think he's going to be very consistent, just runs all day. I think he would be a very good pick at 604k. After that, there's no one that really jumps out and grabs me. Maybe I was a bit harsh on Caleb Sarong. He got tagged, he got a low score. I was worried about that. I was worried about the Freo midfield, but now he's got 2 big scores in his system and he's still reasonably cheap. I believe his break even is still reasonably high. He's got 139 break even, so you don't have to get him this week. You can have a look at him one more time and see, what's going on. But he is the major the tag target. That was a bit of a tongue twister for me. At the Freo. So don't be surprised if he gets some attention again in the future, but he can deliver you a big score. So there's one more that I'm going to mention, a sneaky, cheeky one of Torque Miller. Now, Torque Miller he's got a break even of 127, so he's not going to go up a lot in value, so you can hold on to him for a week. But if you need a mid now and you're thinking about the future, due to the stats, it's not guaranteed, but it's looking pretty likely that Tuke Miller will get forward status at the end of round 6. So if you wanted to go a little bit early, get him in your midfield now, and then just have him there. And then when he gets the DPP, swing him to the forward line. I can understand that as a bit of a sneaky play. But there's no guarantee he'll get forward status, but the stats so far show that it is quite likely that he will. So they're the ones I'd be looking at. There's a few which will be coming down in price in a few weeks. So people like Ed Richards and McCluggage will be getting cheaper the next few weeks. So I think we can target them. They might get to 600 or a bit below, even if we're lucky, get down around the 550 mark. So I think there'll be some bargains to have in the next few weeks. That's why I'm not going to suggest too many others. If you're going to get a midfielder now, get the best, because in a few weeks you're going to want to pick off the cheaper guys. So that's why if it was me, I'd be going a Bont or a Holmes, getting guys that I really trust are going to probably be, top 8 midfielders. All right, let's have a look at if you're in the shopping market for a forward. Now, we will go by average, I think. So, obviously, Petrarca's out. Sheasel, we should all have him. Shea Bolton is an interesting one. People asked me about Shea Bolton next week, and I said I couldn't go there. I mean, he got a score less than 10 in a full game last year. He is getting more midfield time with Young being out. Does that change when Young comes back in? I'm not too sure. And he's had a couple of monster scores. So I personally can't do it. But he's got a 68 in round 1. He could easily do that again. He could easily get a 68 again. But his last 2 scores of 142 and 130 are massive. So it's a risk, but if you don't mind a bit of a risk, I can understand if you want to go there. Tim Kelly had a couple of good games. I don't know if I can go there. He's not playing a full midfielder. Maybe Yo being injured again gives him a bit more time in that midfielder role, but I think it's a little bit risky. We should really be trying to avoid these mid prices now and just get who we think is going to be very dependable. We talked a bit about Jack Lukosius. If you wanted the money train, go there. Now, this is the man which I would almost have as number 1, Brian Myers. He's 506k, so I think you're paying up for a forward, but I think he's going to be very consistent throughout the year. He was very good last year, and so he's got a 75, 108, and 113. So a bit like Bolton, he can give you a lower score. He can give you a low score, but I think overall he's going to be quite consistent around that 90 to 110 mark. So he's one that I quite like. Keziah Pickett had a really big game. if you've already got him, great. Would I buy into him? I don't know if I would buy into him. He's got a break even at 72, so if you really want him, this is probably the week to get him. But I kind of like the man below him, maybe even a little bit more. Zach Bailey from Brisbane, 115, very consistent, seems to get goals every week. Doesn't need a lot of midfield time. So he's got a 76 and 115. So all these forwards are about the same. You know, they can drop you a 75, but at the same time, they can get you 100. So you want to pick, I think any of them, all those guys are a bit the same. But if I had to, for my team, pick who I'd want, I'd probably go a Myers or a Bailey or potentially even a Pickett. I think all of those three are good. And there's one more that I'll give a little bit of a shout out to. Had a big game last week, around 3 points. Where is he? Josh Rochelle at 390. He's getting a bit of midfield time. Do I trust that he can score like an 88, a 50, and a 127? I think this is definitely a spike score from him. I don't think you can expect the 127 every week. Maybe the 80 in the middle between the 50 and the 127 is probably where he'll end up averaging at the end of the year. So I don't know if he's going to be a keeper. So I'm not too sure. You're getting another mid-pricer in your team. If you're willing to take a risk and hopefully he keeps up that output, I would say fine, but just be aware. I think he comes at more risks than some of these higher price guys. And I'm not too sure if he can punch out this 127 again, where I know that Bolton again, I guess he can. He's done it twice now. He's shown his can. And also the Brian Myers and Zach Baileys of the world, I think, are also capable of pumping out a big score. So that's who I'd be interested in if I was in the market for a forward. And last ones we'll go through is for the defenders. So the defenders, again, where are we on average? So Sinclair's on the bye this week. So if you didn't have Sinclair for some reason, you want to target him next week. Unfortunately, a lot of the guys that we would really like are on the bye this week. So guys like Lockie Ash, he's on the bye. Whitfield coming down in price. He's come down to 540, which seems a good value for me for the quality of player you're getting. So he's on the bye. There's somebody else on the bye. Nas is also on the bye. So my plan is to get one of these guys next week. So I think you can do that as well. But if you desperately need someone this week, I mean, there's Tom Stewart. He's playing very well. A little bit scarred for myself from previous years on injury. He seemed to get injured a lot over the last 3 years. Can you expect him to play every single game? Well, his history shows in the last couple of years not. But he certainly can score, and I can totally understand if you're going to go there. Josh Dacos also seems really good this year. He seems to be like we all got sucked into the Houston pick, if you're a bit like me. Dacos, really, he seems to be the man, and he seems to be the one they actually want the ball in his hands when it's moving up the field. So I definitely think he's reasonable. Both of those guys at 520 and 540, I think, are decent prices for what you can get. Here's the man that I'm getting in, Josh Worrell, who I think is unders for his price. I think he has shown he can be quite consistent, and he can get a spike score. He does have players coming back into his team in the future. Hinge could come back as early as next week, I believe. Whether that affects him, I'm not too sure, but definitely when Keane comes back. But that's not for potentially 10 weeks. I think it's 8 to 10 weeks' time. Keane takes a lot of kick-ins, and so I'm hoping if you're getting him, just be aware that he might be really good in the short term, but in a couple of months' time when Keane comes back, you might have to pivot off him. I guess I'm prepared to take that risk at his current price, 500. 508k, which allows me to get one of these gun guys like an Lockie Ash next week. Zorko, he's still, the old man, he's still doing Zorko things. So I think he is also a valid pick. Again, getting on the older side, maybe injuries are a worry, but he can score big on his particular day. James Sicily, 500k. He's having a good season. He seems to be back in that role, which he likes. What's he scored so far this season? He has got 128, 106, and a 90. So nice and consistent. Has a really good mid-season buy. I could totally understand if he went there. He is a bit of a hothead and is, prone to getting suspended. I'd like to see the stats on how many suspensions he's got. If he's been suspended like at least once every year, I wouldn't be surprised if the answer is yes, he's been suspended once every year. So he might make you pull your hair out if you've got him. But, I think also he is a valid option. And here's one of my favourite options of Jordan Clark. Very consistent. Had a bad first game, but he's come back and repaid owners. Again, here's another one that I had in my team. I had him instead of Blackiston at the beginning of the season, and I decided to go against it after not knowing what Freo were doing. And I think now you can see that he's going to be okay. Any player can punch out a average score. But in the last 2 weeks, he had a 75, he's got 119 and 129 in the last 2 weeks. So he's a little bit more expensive than some of the others, but I think he could be one of the more consistent and definitely almost a shoe-in for a top 6 to 8 defender. I can't say for sure, but he's almost a shoe-in. So I don't think there's any others I'd be considering this week. Like I said, next week is the week where we're going to be looking at potentially a Nas, potentially a Lockie Whitfield, or potentially a Lockie Ash. I think basically for me, I might jump on probably one of the GWS boys just because their mid-season buy is one of the best, and it could be Whitfield at his price. Yes, I'm still worried about Fonte stealing some of his points, and Ash does seem to be the man, so maybe I go Ash instead. But Whitfield, we know he can still perform very well, and he had a good week this week. If I can find him again, I've lost him. At 540, if you said at the beginning of the season you could get Lockie Whitfield at 540, I would have 100% started him in my team. He had 100, then he had 70, then he had 96, and then he had 128. So you take the 70 out of the score, it's not too bad, right? Is it as good as Lockie Ash, who is basically an extra 30 grand on top, who's got a 69 in the first week, and then he's got a 136, a 130, and a 100. So he's gone a little bit bigger, a little bit more often. I think they're both good. I think they're both going to be fine. Can Whitfield pick up his scoring? I'm sure he can. Which one's the better pick? I'm not too sure. Pre-season, I said Whitfield. Now, looking at what we've seen so far this season, maybe it's Lockie Ash. And then also with Nas, like I said, you know what Nas is capable of. He's getting tagged pretty much every week, but sooner or later he's going to get off the leash. And he's definitely going to get forward mid status. So that's a reason that might convince me to take him next week, just to offer that flexibility of being, not forward mid, of defensive mid status. So the fact that he can be swapped into the midfield to help us out there after round 6 might push me into getting him. I think he can, he can drop a low score if he gets shown that he can be tagged out of the game. But at the same time, if he goes forward, he just hasn't lit it up where he's kicked a few goals like he has gone forward before. But he can still get a big score even when tagged if he manages to get some goals. So he just hasn't quite blown up yet this year, but I think it's on the cards and it could happen at any time. And I think at that price at 568, he's also a pretty good deal at that price. All right, crew. I think that's all the trades, all the positions. I hope that helped you out. If you've got someone else in mind who I didn't mention, please leave it down in the comments. And if you are thinking, if you've got some other questions, like you've got some other injuries or something that you have to get rid of, and you would like some ideas for that, please let me know. So now we're going to go through and do our vice captain and captain choices. Now I think we've got a few choices. Me personally, I've got the vice captain on Sheasel into a Bont. There are obviously, if you don't have, most of us going to have Sheasel, so I think he's a good choice. Plays on Friday night. He's the actually highest averaging player besides Bont. Besides Bont, he's the highest averaging player in my team, and he plays Carlton, who Carlton haven't been great so far this year. So I think he could be up for another good score. Last time he played Carlton, he got 100, but I usually don't read too much into this. So he could have been playing, not quite the same position, but I still think he's a good pick. Dacos got you 150 last week. Maybe he's a pick. He did go big against Brisbane last time they played. 110, 172. He got last year against them. The only thing I wonder is Josh Dunkley is normally the defensive midfielder for Brisbane. Does he get a little bit of attention from Dunkley? Maybe can Dunkley go with him? I'm not too sure. Can anyone go with Nick Dacos? I'm not too sure. But I also think that's a fair pick. Obviously, he is going along at a nice little average of 131 as well. So a nice vice captain pick as well. And then my next vice captain pick would probably be the man Butters versus Richmond. So Butters' score, he got a 126 this week. He hasn't gone super ballistic. He only got an 89 against Richmond last time. But like I said, I don't read too much into that. So he's got a 94, a 135, and a 126. So pretty consistent. Even in a loss last week, he still had a reasonable score. So, I think most teams will have Butters. So if you're missing, I think if you're missing a Dacos, I think maybe a Butters or a Sheasel, which I think are going to be owned by most of the competition, are probably your best bets. Down into the Bont, or even into, if you don't have Bont, potentially a sneaky English versus Blackiston. I know Sherry didn't do very well against Blackiston last week, but English could be a different story. So I think that is a sneaky pick too. But if you've got the Bont, I wouldn't. Also, him versus Essendon, I assume he's going to have a field day against Essendon. So I would think the safer version is the Bont if you've got him. If not, maybe English. And again, if you don't have Bont, maybe you can go like Dacos into Butters or Sheasel into Butters. I think for me and for most people out in the community, they're going to have those players, and that's going to be doable for them in captain wise. So I think that's probably enough for this video, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. That will really help me out. Once again, thank you so much for your support, everybody. It's been amazing. Don't forget to check out my disgusting round review video. Yes, if you'd like to see a grown man cry, check that one out. If you like this video, please like the video. Leave me a comment down below telling me who are you going to be trading in and out, and who are your captain choices going to be. And also join the Discord. Don't forget, on Thursday we go live. Throw your team up on screen, have a chat about it. We'll talk about trades. We'll go into more details about everything that we talked about today. Plus, by that time, we will have some team lists and the injury report out. So we'll have a really good idea of what we should do with our teams for this week. Anyway, crew, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you all again very soon. Take it away, Skip.